All right, today I want to talk to you about photo stories, how to tell a story using photography and videography. This is very handy if you're trying to get more photos for stock. You want to tell the complete story so that you have more images and more potential of making a sale and multiple sales at a time. Now for this particular video, since I'm outdoors, beautiful area, the woods, the forest, I'm going to be talking about this little guy. So small you can't even see him. This is the mountain pine beetle. I know, weird, right? But I guarantee we can come up with a lot of photos that are gonna have high commercial value because of how problematic these little things are. Now, to tell a story using photography, there's a technique that takes 4 different types of shots. You want your wide shots to establish location, where you're at, your surroundings. Then you have your medium shots. This is something that's gonna be just a little bit closer than your wide angle shots. So instead of a drone, now you can do a wide angle from the ground. Or you could zoom in just a little bit, just to show location, get the viewer the perspective, like this dead pine tree that's here behind me. Then you go into your tight shots. This is like a portrait, like the shot on me right now, like a tighter shot. Focus on what's happening. And then you got your details. This is when you get really close and show as much detail as you can on that subject. Now, if you can tie these 4 shots and answer these 6 questions, who, what, when, where, how, and why, now you have a story. So now let's get on with this little beetle because it is killing hundreds, if not millions of acres of trees all throughout the West Coast. Now, when I very first had the idea to make this video, I was gonna make it about picking morel mushrooms and tell the complete story. But this season I only found 2 mushrooms, so that wasn't much of a story. The idea is to tell the location, so a drone shot, a wide angle shot, somebody walking and picking them. I had an orange jacket so I could stand out in the dark forest, picking the mushrooms, close-ups of the mushrooms, cooking the mushrooms, putting them on top of a steak, making a soup, eating the soup outside with the mushrooms. That's part of this story. Instead, I picked these beetles, which, by the way, there's some people that recommend smacking the tree with the blunt end of an axe to kill the beetles. This is not gonna kill all of them, but it's definitely gonna kill the ones that are inside of that hole. These beetles are very delicate. That's something I learned. So I did smack quite a few of them around and they left those trees alone, which is interesting. Eventually, about a month later, some beetles did come back, but for the most part, the trees that I smacked with the axe, they're beetle free now. Does it work? I don't know, but it's something to keep in mind. If you have pine beetles, whack them with a hammer, with the blunt end of an axe, and see what happens. Now, this little mountain pine beetle appeared in the US here in like 1992. So, what's that, 32 years ago. It started out in the middle of the country and then it started to spread. And as small as they are, they're literally taking down thousands, if not millions of acres across the country. I was in South Dakota a few years ago and I can show you some of the aerial images from there and you can see the total devastation. Now, the extreme detail I got with this beetle, talk about extreme. I used a 180 macro lens, 3 extension tubes, and the NEEWER magnifying glass. That was awesome, but to get that close, some of these images are 20 photo stacks, just, you know, automatic stacking from the camera to get that level of detail. It's awesome. I love playing around with these things, but you can see how weird looking these things are and how small they are. They're literally about 1/4 of an inch. That's how small they are, but they're blamed for destroying hundreds, if not thousands or millions of acres of forest across the US and Canada. Incredible how they do it. If you really pay attention, now let's answer the question how, is they'll burrow into the trees and then you'll see the pitch tubes come out. The pitch or the sap of the tree will start to come out in a way to protect the tree. If it's a healthy tree, it'll plug the hole where the beetle went in and it'll kill it. It'll stay in there and it can't come out. most of the trees they're attacking are stressed. Droughts, climate change, all of these things are stressing the trees, and these things are just coming in and finishing the job. I did notice when I was taking images that a lot of the trees were already dying, and then the beetles came in and took over, which was an interesting observation. What's killing the trees? We'll get to that at the end. But anyway, these little guys, you can see the mandibles, you can see the shapes of the head, but they're so fragile. You can just squeeze them. I saved a few to take pictures. These are unalived. That's a nice way to say it, and killed them. I try to preserve them, so I put them in a little jar with alcohol, and that killed them quickly. But I wanted to keep all the details, or keep the details as best as possible. If you smash them, the photos are not gonna look that great. Now, another part of the story is how. How do you know that a tree has beetles? Well, there's many ways. First of all, you'll notice that the needles of the tree are starting to get brown. The tree is dying. The green goes to brown or reddish. Then you can see at the base, there's other dust or crumbly stuff that's from the tree itself. That's where the beetle is digging in. And then you'll notice the pitch tubes. These are little tubes where these guys go in and out. So when you see that and you see a hole in that pitch or in that resin, now you know that tree is infected with beetles. The US Forest Service recommends cutting the tree down because these guys only attack trees that are standing up. Once they're laying flat, apparently they don't like it. It's something to do with how the resin or the pitch goes up the tree in the summer or in the spring, and then it comes down in the fall. So you'll see them, they'll be very active in the spring and summer. If you look around this part of the forest where I'm in, everything looks beautiful, healthy, even though it's very dry. There's sticks, there's branches, there's downed trees everywhere. This is part of the ecosystem. This will eventually decompose and become part of the soil. It seems perfectly natural. But when you step back a little bit and go wide and you start to show the whole environment from a different perspective, you can see that this is not normal. You can see how many trees have snapped and have broken because of wind or snow. How many trees are dying or are stressed. They're only gonna break if they're stressed. And when you look at the amount of trees that have broken or how many have been uprooted because of heavy winds, something is happening. So what is causing all this? Which, by the way, it's not the beetles causing this. The beetles come in after the damage has been done. All right, so this is why I like stock photography. You can take something as simple as a pine beetle, do some research and learn as much as you want about that subject. You don't have to learn anything if you don't want to, but if you want to dedicate some time, you can learn a lot about whatever subject you're photographing. Now, I hope this made sense. If you use the 4 techniques, establish location, a little bit closer, and then your details. And if you answer the questions, who, what, when, where, how, and why, then you'll have a complete story. You'll learn a lot about your subject. And yes, this is snow. It's July 3rd, and we have snow up on the mountain. I'm gonna see if Bambi wants to play. She likes to chase snowballs. Now, if you notice, I like to read what other people are not reading. That way we're not all thinking the same thing, because then it'll be kind of boring. And doing some research, I came across Dane Wigington in California, and he's got some very convincing evidence of what is causing climate change. So I'm gonna leave a link to his website down here in the video description. And for now, I hope that made sense. Answer the questions, use 4 different angles to tell the story, and shoot for stock. You'll get to learn. You might make some money as you're learning and practicing your photography. For now, let me see if Bambi wants to play. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. That's what it was. That one. The camera's backwards. Whatever. Bambi. Hey, ready?